first day in the French Foreign Legion. You know, in a previous video, I kind of hit on that first day in France. But what was the first day in the Legion like? We ended off me knocking on that gate. Knocking on that gate in the state I was in. Sad, man. Depressed even. I don't really like that word, but it was the truth. It was 100% the truth. I was confused. I was lost. And man, I was filled with fear, filled with hope, but fear was probably the most prevalent. Fear of the current state of my life, the chaos I was involved in, what my future might look like if I got turned away, what my future might look like if I made it. So I knocked on that door. Like I said, the Legionnaire, the dude from Mexico, opened the door, and I gave him my passport. I go in, get set up. A corporal chef comes in, and it's a rank in the Legion. And told me to get up on the pull-up bar. And we go back, and we walk past this. There's like a center courtyard in Fort Nogent is where we're at this point in the story. And there's, it's stone, kind of like a little medieval castle on the outskirts, on the east side of Paris. And there's a little courtyard in the middle. And then you walk through this courtyard, and I'm walking. He's kind of leading me. He's about 5 meters, a couple meters ahead of me. And I'm walking, and I'm just thinking, what am I walking into, right? The French Foreign Legion is a mystique behind it. There's some videos out there and whatever, but it's all kind of, that's why I started this whole format, because all the information out there is shit, man. It's just not good. It's not clear. It's not current, and it's not directly relevant, right? I mean, it's good information, but let's just get it clear. So I started walking back, and you walk through this tunnel, and the tunnel opens up to these old barracks buildings, stone buildings. Once again, all the buildings in this are stone. And we walk in, and it's Sunday night. I timed it like this for a reason. The full moon, the hunter's full moon, all red, huge in the sky. It's kind of a cool setting, cool reality of what was going on in retrospect, because at the current time I was like this. I was in looking through a toilet paper roll, with I had no bandwidth for anything else. So I walk in, we walk up the stairs, and there's a pull-up bar up there. So we hop on, and it's in the middle of the hallway, right? And down the hallway are the guys who are already in, kind of waiting around in the pre-selection center. So that's where we're at. We're at a pre-selection center in Fort Nogent. And so there's guys, and they're standing in the hallway. It's Sunday night. There ain't shit to do. They're standing in the hallway looking, who's this new cat come in? And so what are we doing? Everyone's looking to see if the guy's going to be able to hammer out some pull-ups or not. I hop in there, bust out about 25. They're like, okay, hop off. They're like, all right. He's like, all right. We immediately walk back into this room, and he says, sit down, kind of checks my bag a little bit just to make sure I don't have anything fucking crazy in there, and starts taking my property, kind of separating what I can have. He goes, you can keep this stuff. You can have a little bit of money, some coins, you bring in shower shoes, a towel, one pair of, you're just wearing the civilian clothes you brought in. Luckily I brought some sports clothes, so I was a little bit comfortable. Dudes are sitting in there in jeans and shit, but I'm all by myself at this point in this room. Then he just plops down on my desk that I'm sitting at a piece of paper, and it's a mini IQ test. Basic, but not a slam dunk. I mean, it was, maybe that's not saying much about me, but you gotta be able to know a couple things, but it's only like 10 questions or something like that. and basic math, maybe some spatial appreciation type stuff, and a couple basic questions. And then that was it. I take my little property that I could have in the bag, and he kind of put the rest in a box. And I walk back to the barracks room that was housing all the rest of the guys. There's like 2 or 3 big rooms housing the guys. And I walk in, and you start who's who in the zoo, people asking questions, who can speak English. It's a weird scenario because it's just a room full of cats from all over the world in civilian clothes in a military barracks who they're split up in about 25% can actually speak to each other because everyone's speaking groups of languages. The big languages are Russian. The big languages are, not big, but English is a good catch-all. You got Nepali. We had some Chinese guys. We had a Thai guy. We had some guys from Africa, all the different countries. In this room is about 25 cats, all bunked up, or 30 dudes. And then they kind of start going into, okay, this is how you kind of make your bed. The guys are just kind of telling me there's no military personnel here at the moment. We're all just left to our own devices. Now, I go to bed, I wake up to a whistle, which anybody knows about the Foreign Legion, you're going to be waking up to a whistle for the rest of your career. And I wake up to this whistle, and I remember having this moment holding my sheet, because I had been in the civilian world doing whatever I wanted, working in business and doing stuff, and even in the SEAL teams, you're living out in town, you have a completely different lifestyle, you have a lot of autonomy. And it had been since boot camp of Navy since I had really been in a situation like this. And I was 34, come crashing down from life, from high up to nothing, to sitting there with the sheet in my hand going, fuck. And I just had this moment like, man, am I really going to do this? And I said, yep. And I started folding my sheet. There's a certain way you got to fold it into a roll, and it's got to stand. It's a whole pain in the ass. But we're learning this Mongolian kid was teaching me, who I ended up going into the same regiment, same deployments, and all that stuff with. Funny story down the road about that guy. But he was showing me how to do my stuff, and then we start in. And so that first night, and now we're going into that next morning. Now we're going into medical checks immediately. Now we're waiting around in a room also. A bunch of dudes, and they're pulling dudes out 1 and 2s. Other guys are arriving. They're processing them like this. You're doing psychological evaluations. You're doing another interview. And they're asking me, why are you here, bro? I have my DD-214 showing my last duty station at SEAL Team 7. And they're like, what the fuck are you doing here? And it's a good question. And my thing was just lean into the truth, right? They want to know who you are, who you say you are, and why are you there, right? Because they don't know who you are. Dudes are coming in from every corner of the earth. So I just leaned in the truth because they can sense that authenticity. And I was like, look, man, I was kicked out of the United States military and worked in the civilian world, and I messed up. And I ruined my life. And now I'm here and I want a second chance. That's what I said to him. And he was like, okay, because it was the fucking truth, right? I wasn't really hiding anything. And that's the beautiful thing about joining the Legion, man. You don't have to be coming in squeaky clean. Nobody there is squeaky clean. And that guy who's interviewing you was on the other side of that table. You got to remember that. And so then the worst thing I was worried about is the medical screeners, right? There was a guy in there from England who was military in England, had been to Afghanistan, all this stuff. Same age, same birthday, which is weird. Same year, everything. Black dude, big jack dude, badass mofo. And we were going through the selection process. We came in about the same time, and it was interesting because he didn't get selected because of his teeth. And he's from England, but he had gotten blown up and had some fake teeth in the back. And they didn't pick that guy with all that experience because of that. A lot of guys get chopped for the teeth, which is, they have, and you got to understand why France does this. They have a lot of guys would join the Legion back in the day. It's kind of a historical thing. A lot of guys were joining the Legion, would just come in, need dental work done, get their dental work done, and then desert. So France got overpaying for that. And I understand it. So they're strict on the teeth. They're strict on the feet. They're strict on the teeth. And that was kind of our whole first day. We take another IQ test. Now, this one's a little bit harder, or a lot harder. It was harder than the ASVAB. If anybody's aware of the ASVAB, I would definitely call it harder than the ASVAB. Shorter, though. More compressed. And the spatial appreciation portion is much harder. The puzzle portion's more difficult, and then the basic questions in math aren't too bad, but it wasn't, and dudes failed it. You know, dudes come in and dudes like, hey man, how did you do? I don't know where he was from. How did you do? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know. Sure enough, that dude gets axed, and they just tell you to leave. If you fail that test, they look at you're doing it on a computer. If they fail that test, or any portion of this, during this first day or two, they just grab your bag and say, hey, have a good one. You know, at the pre-selection part, you know, dudes will come in and fail the pull-ups and have traveled from the middle of the jungle in South America, took a boat to a bus to a plane to a train, get all the way to France, fail the pull-ups, just tell them to turn around, man. That I don't understand. You have the answers to the test showing up, so get prepared. And we go to eat. Right? You're going to eat. Now, it's not militant at this stage in the game, at the pre-selection center. It's not militant. They're pretty casual with you. They yell a little bit, and they tell you to get in line and shut up, and they're talking to you in French, and you're starting to get incorporated and indoctrinated into this Legion world slowly. They do it slowly. But we're walking to chow, and man, they're not giving you many calories at this point. They're going bare bones. Some dudes quit right there when they saw what the lunch was. It was worse than a jailhouse meal. It was one strip of bologna and a baguette. You know, one flat thing. I was all right with it, man. You know, I'll tell you what. You know, I wish it was a little more, but whatever. You're in the military. It's all good. You're not gonna die. That's the way I always looked at it. Maybe just work on the abs a little bit. Getting that calorie deficit. And you're waiting around more, you have some off time, dudes are smoking cigarettes or drinking coffee during some downtime, and then you're waiting in the room to get called. And that's the flow. That's the flow for that first week in the Legion. That first day, you're hammering out a couple IQ tests. You're not doing any physical tests until about you pass the IQ test, the initial interview, and it's about 3-4 days in after you're done the medical screener also, where you're starting with the beep test, the sprint test. It's like a shuttle run, pull-ups, push-ups, that basic shit. And that was my first day in the Legion. Not really in the Legion, but the Legion. We're starting to get into the Legion. And my state of mind here was, I was just happy to be sitting somewhere into something positive and trying for something again. It had been a long time since I really felt like I was doing something positive and interesting. You know, picking up that pen and writing my story, and not just having it dictated to me. I was clear-headed, you know, which was part of why all the emotions were coming, because I had numbed myself for so long and pushed everything back down that I just wasn't even allowing myself. It felt healing to sit and just be and just have hours to just sit, and it felt like my brain was healing, seriously. And I was really appreciative for all that sitting time. because I could just sit in thought and reflection. And I had a lot more reflection to do over the years, and a lot more quiet time in dungeons where I could actually think and process my thoughts, which I hadn't done for a really long time. And it really helped my level of self-awareness and be able to communicate some of the lessons that I have learned with you. That was my first day in the Legion. Be smart out here.